to Nudia's Mastermind podcast. On this episode, I have the lovely Jen, and I feel like I always mess up your last name.
Try it. Let's see what happens. It's Suliafu.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm terrible.
It's okay.
It's so easy when you say it. It's so simple, but my mind, when it reads it, it doesn't connect to the word anyway. Jen, I'm so excited and happy to have you on the show. Thank you for being with us today.
Mm-hmm. I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Yeah. So just a little bit of background. Jen is extraordinary in many things, and she actually helps a lot of people with many things. But I would say that one of your biggest gifts is that you're really able to help people in their life and in their journey and in their spiritual journey. I mean, that's what you've really mainly helped me with. I've been on this spiritual journey for about 5 years, and I met you, when was it, 3 years ago, maybe? Yeah, a little over 3 years ago. And I'll go more into detail on how that all unfolded. But, Jen, you're so gifted, and you really have this beautiful essence about you where you really, truly care for people. And I can tell that you really want to help wake people up, which is what you always say. And would you consider yourself more of a life coach, spiritual coach? Is there a certain label that you describe? Or
no, it's funny because I've had this conversation with lots of people because they're like, you should call yourself this or that. And honestly, I just call myself a life coach just because really for me that just encompasses everything that I help people with when it comes to my clients, because it's relationships and business and spirituality and all of it. It's just life, right? So I just call myself a life coach. I don't really get caught up on the label.
Yeah, that's actually perfect. You are a life coach. And
maybe one day I'll change it, but right now I just jump in and call it life coach. So yeah.
I like it. Life coach is perfect. You're a life changer. So, okay. So the way that you and I met each other, just so you guys know, about 3.5 years ago, I was asked by one of my friends to come and join a weekend retreat. And the way she described it, it was going to be about 10 to 12 women. The way it was described, it was more of like a business workshop type of setting and a little bit of spirituality. And I found out the names of the people that were going, and I'm like, this is like a great group of people to be around. So I show up at this amazing house, this huge house that what was the place where we're going to spend this weekend together at. And it was so fun because you had all the food included. And I remember your sister came in, and she was making all the very organic and healthy and nutritious food. And we really got to know each other so well, and not only each other, but the rest of the group, that powerhouse of a group. We really were able to get very vulnerable and share stories with each other that really connected us to really deep levels. And so my introduction to you really was that at that retreat, and then you taught me so many things that day. And then at the end, you gave like a free coaching session. And then right after that, maybe a few months later, is when I signed up on your coaching. And once I actually signed up for your coaching, and I think it was about a 6-month period that we did it. And man, you really helped me, not only just with certain life aspects, but you also helped me really find and remember my worth. I feel like I kind of got lost for a minute, a part of me, and I did some self-abandonment, and you were so important to me during that time period, just to remind me of who I really was. And I will never forget the impact and just the self-love exercises that you would give me, and just that real like sister to sister empowerment and just help and love. And you were tremendous. So I'm forever grateful and indebted to you, Jen.
You're trying to make me cry right out the gate. Oh, thank you, honey. Thank you. I appreciate
Yeah,
that.
I'm just being authentic about it, you know? So just thank you so much for who you are. And, but yeah, everyone, that's how I met Jen. Are there any other things you want to add to that, Jen?
Well, and then we went to Sedona, which was pretty cool, life-changing. But yeah, that was we've had some amazing times together for sure. Very deep.
It's magical.
Yeah, it was magical. Yeah.
That place really is, as soon as you arrive, you're like, okay, I get it. I see why everyone talks about this place, you know, very high vibe, very spiritual, very, very vibrant. Yeah, it was awesome. So we've had some very deep moments together.
Yeah. Yes.
So Jen, I would love for you to share why, you know, what was it that happened in your life where you decided to take on this journey of becoming a life coach and just knowing that your purpose really, and you've shared so many stories with me, but I really want you to be able to tell our audience and the listeners of who you are. Like, how did you become who you are today? And so whatever is in your heart to share, we'd love to hear.
Okay, thank you. So you said something that was really key, which is exactly why I got into the work that I am in now. And you said I lost myself for a while, right? And whenever I see someone or I start working with someone, it hurts me to see them lost, because I was lost for so long. And I was just trying to figure out who the hell I am, you know, and remember who I am and my worth. And it was quite a journey. It was really hard. Everybody, to some degree, I believe every human being forgets who they are to some capacity. I think that's what this experience of life is about. We're meant to forget who we are. And that's actually, it's fine. It's a good thing. It's part of the journey. But then we're meant to come here, forget who we are, but not spin for the rest of our life and then die. That isn't the point. And so when you talked about how, you know, you and I met up, because when I met you, I'm just, first of all, I was in awe of your beauty. You're so beautiful, and you just exude this energy about you. And
thank you.
it was really, really fun to dive deep. I literally jump for joy when someone starts a journey, whether it's with me or somebody else. But when they start that journey of really remembering who they are and coming back to that wholeness within them and really starting to honor themselves. That's what it's really about. It's not about being perfect or doing, you know, making all the right choices, because that's not reality, you know. It's fine to make mistakes and to kind of go off course, but when we can really start to come back to who we are and honor ourselves and really start to love and nurture ourselves, that's when life gets good. And so for me, I had a lot of chaos as a child, and I had some very traumatic things happen in my childhood. When I was 11 years old, I was raped and by a man that was in his 20s. And my self-worth was just wrecked. It was destroyed. And it just kept going and going and going. And so then I got to a place where I was, you know, I got married really young because I was just searching outside of myself. I was searching for someone to validate my worth. Who thinks I'm great? Who thinks I'm good enough, you know? So I got married really young and started having kids. And, you know, I had my first baby girl at 22 years old. And then I was pregnant with my second child when my marriage fell apart. And And it was devastating for me. It was another confirmation that I was worthless and that I wasn't good enough. And I was really, really lost. And
Just curious, and I don't mean to cut you off, but when when you had that awful experience of, you know, being raped and have someone take something from you without permission or, you know, having any control over it, was that then the very first big impact in your life when you just felt like there's no worth to you because someone just took all of it? Like, was that the first thing that really made you start self-doubting and thinking that you were less than? And do you feel that?
I think that I felt that a long time before that, for sure. You know, I don't think I ever felt like I was really in a healthy place. I mean, I just had a really crazy childhood. I had a lot of love around me, but my family was very, you know, chaotic, and we had a lot of dysfunction, and we used laughter a lot to cope through hard times. And with that laughter, I learned how to create a facade that I was strong and everything was good. And I brought that clear into my, you know, teenage years. And my friends that, you know, after I started speaking publicly about my experience and where I was before, my friends would say, "What? I had no idea that you didn't seem insecure." And it was a facade that I had built. And so I have the capacity now to see through other people's facades that they create, because I did that. So a lot of people that seem really, you know, showy or like they got it all together, I can see right through that now because I did that. And
So beautiful and so helpful when you just need someone to come and call you out, you know, and like, no, you're not okay. Or
yeah.
I think that's a beautiful thing, and that you have the rawness and the boldness to just say it, you know. I think we need more of that. So
well, it's been a real journey to get to that place. But, you know, when you said, did I feel like he took that from me? I didn't. And the reason I didn't is because I blamed me. I didn't blame him. In fact, it took me up until I was literally in my 30s. I was probably, I don't know, 33 years old before I finally clicked and labeled that as that I was raped. I blamed it totally on myself, the incident, because there were things that I did that I knew were wrong. Like I snuck out of the house. I drank for the first time at 11 years old, and then I passed out. And so it was when I was passed out that that he took advantage of me. And so in my little 11-year-old brain for so many years, I thought it was all my fault. You know, I drank, I snuck out of the house. I just blamed it on me. And then once I was an adult and I now had an 11-year-old daughter, that was the turning point for me. When my baby girl turned 11, and I remember looking at her and going, there's no way, like just knowing the ability that she had and just the innocence in her little 11-year-old brain, and realizing that it wasn't my fault. Absolutely. It was a very healing place for me to get to. But yeah,
that's so good. Just because there was a bad decision when you're little, you know, there's definitely big distinction between that and then something that somebody else decided to do that was awful. So fast forwarding back to when you had your kids, so you had your girl first, and then your boy.
Yep.
And then
so that's when basically when my awakening started, was when I literally, you know, I had my brand new baby boy, and my marriage was, I mean, my husband wanted to, you know, we got a divorce at the end of the day. We got a divorce, and it was really, really a heartbreaking time for me. It was really hard. And I, for the next 6 years, I felt like I was just, I call it my dark ages, because I didn't know up from down. I didn't know my belief system was, and I just was really trying to figure out who I was. And I think of it like, it was like I'd built this facade all around me, and my world crashed so hard that you hear about people going through an awakening, and it's like they get cracked open, so now the light can come in. And that's what happened with me, is now, you know, once I went through that really, really painful experience, I could no longer keep up this facade anymore. And I started really, really searching for answers and trying to heal myself. I never, ever planned on, oh, when I grow up, I'm going to become a coach. I mean, that wasn't even in my mind at all. And so I ended up, I just wanted to heal myself. And I ended up going into the news for a minute. I dipped my toe in it and ran fast from that. And then I ended up going into the pharmaceutical world. And I during the time I was in the pharmaceutical world, I just worked and worked and worked on myself. And then I realized that over time I had healed so much, and my life had changed so much, and I'd learned so much about self-love and healing and spirituality and manifesting, that that's all I talked about. So even though I was a sales rep, I wouldn't go in and really talk about medication. It was like, I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about your husband and your children, and, you know, and so that's what I did. And I realized I'm in the wrong, like, I'm ready to move on. This is not, it got empty. And so
not the right field.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So 2016, the beginning of 2016, I just jumped in and I started my own business, and I haven't looked back.
Oh, and you've changed so many people's lives and helped so many people. What a wonderful thing. And talk about fulfillment. You went from the pharmaceutical world to now really connecting with people and really helping, you know, change their core, and so important. Thank you for sharing your story. That's awesome. That's the way it was discovered. What are some things, you know, now that you've been doing it for so many years, what are some of your favorite things that you teach that's made like a real impact on people?
My favorite things that I teach were just things that bring people back to shedding all of those lives that we take on, and really, really having someone just change their focus, you know, to starting to pat themselves on the back and starting to honor themselves. Because I feel like we have like the dukes up against ourselves constantly, and we're constantly you know, beating ourselves up for many things. I work with a lot of women. Most of my clients are women. I connect really well with women. I also love to work with men too, because I get to see that vulnerability in men, and I love that. But the bulk of my clients are women, and women, they really, really feel like they're falling short all the time, you know, especially as a mom and a wife and a businesswoman, all the hats that we wear. And so my very favorite thing is taking that mindset and those stories and dissolving them, and then rebuilding the new stories. Because at the end of the day, I think that that's what our life is made up of, is our stories, you know. Mm-hmm. For example, I was just talking with a client last week, and she feels a lot of guilt around how much she works.
Oh gosh, I have a few friends that I can
name
right off the bat, that same problem.
Yep. As a mom, you always feel like you're falling short, you know? And so I asked her, well, why do you work? And she thought for a minute, and she's like, well, I don't know, like to pay bills. And this is a mom, like she's always with her kids or her clients and her husband, you know? She's not like going out to the bars every weekend. She's not like, you know, spending all the money on herself. Like at the end of the day, she works for her family, but yet she's feeling guilty because she's not spending time with her family. And so I just feel like when you start to unravel those stories that you take on, that we take on as human beings, and you start to realize, well, wait a second, I'm doing a good job as a mom. I'm working for my family. Because I work, my daughter can, you know, do cheer, or I help alleviate some of the financial stress off of my husband or whatever, you know? And so just understanding that there's different perspectives and ways to look at things. And if we have, you know, a subject and we can look at it completely different ways, and one perspective can make you miserable, and the other perspective can just really help you feel grateful and fulfilled. And it's nothing's changed. It was just your perspective that changed.
Your point of view. Oh my gosh, it's so good. And I'm a huge Tony Robbins fan. I know you know that, but you know, he always talks about change your story and change your life.
Oh
And
yeah.
it's exactly that. There are so many different points of views of a certain situation, and how beautiful and powerful it is that if we can just switch the lenses, you know, like, oh, that's all we have to do is just take a look at it from a different standpoint. Sometimes that's a lot harder, you know, to be said than done. But I love that there's always a process to everything. And I think when you're having somebody who's like you, Jen, that is a consistent reminder of, no, you can look at it this way. Have you thought about it this way? And these are the steps that you can take and do so that you continue to remember to look at it this way. And then the more that we exercise it, the more it actually happens. And then one day you actually do believe the new story.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so just how important it is. What would you say the time frame? And I kind of hate using the time, you know, because I feel like everyone has their own process and their own timing. But how long does it usually take for you from when you start working with a person that is, you know, in the story, and then for you to create a new one and for them to actually start shifting? Like, what does that process look like?
I love that you asked that question, because that's how my brain works. Like I'm always like, I want to know, like, what's the time frame here? Like when my husband and I are working out, I'm like, tell me how long I'm supposed to do this. And he's like, just do it and I'll tell you when we're done. I'm like, no, am I doing this for 5 minutes, 10 reps? What am I doing?
How much do I need?
But the thing is at the end of the day, the answer to that is so, I mean, it completely comes down to, it's not definable because everyone is so different. So the real answer to that is the time frame is at the rate that you get out of your own way, at the rate that you choose to actually do the work. You know, I can give someone the tools and then they go back into their life, and the next week I'm like, did you do it? You know, you were supposed to do this week. No. Okay. Well, then they're not serious yet. I mean, they're obviously serious to some degree, because by the time they get in front of me, they're committed to some degree, but some are really, really ready. They're in pain. They're ready. I was so committed to my personal growth that I would get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and I would meditate and I would visualize and I would read, and I did so much work because I couldn't stand the thought of staying in the same place anymore. I had to change. And so, but a more definable, which is exciting, is sometimes literally I will see massive, massive change within someone's life within 3 weeks.
Wow.
3 weeks or 4 weeks. And it is so cool and so exciting for me to see that their life just starts changing and shifting because of the work that they're willing to do. It is, and I know they'll never be the same again, because the thing is once you wake up, you don't go back to sleep. And people feel like that. They go, well, I'm kind of worried to get married again, because I've made all these crappy decisions in the past when it came to, relationships.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but you don't have to worry about that anymore, because that person was at a different consciousness level. And once you raise your consciousness and you wake up, yeah, you can go in and out of your vibration that you're flying at. But once you turn the lights on, they don't go back off. Once you know what you know, you don't unlearn it. And so, of course, you can fall into, unhealthy habits and that, but it's like learning how to walk or learning how to talk. You don't worry about forgetting how to walk.
Yeah.
And so that's what I see is once they turn their lights on, and of course, there's always more layers and more layers. I mean, I'm going to continue to work on my spirituality in my progression throughout my life, but I don't worry about ever being the same again, because I just know it's just not happening.
Yeah. And I really love the work that you do, because you really get so deep to the core of the issue, like there are so many people out there that are miserable and unhappy. And like you say, a lot of facades, lots of masks, and a lot of pretending. And what's so important, and in my self-development journey that I've been doing for 10 years, and the spiritual journey, and what really has always worked for me has been the way that you teach. Like you've helped me get deep into the trauma. You've helped me get deep into, where does this actually come from? Where does this behavior come from? Where did it start? Because maybe it didn't start with my first boyfriend. Maybe it started with my father, and so a lot of that deep healing that really is so important. And so many people just try to avoid themselves. So many people know that there's hurt, know that there's pain. They don't maybe know where it's coming from, but then they don't really want to face it. The importance of just being able to be brave and be so willing to want to do the work and be free of the pain. Like nobody wants to be in pain, So you do such a beautiful job of going deep and like finding the core issue, which I love. So thank you so much for that, because you're so good at what you do. Shifting gears a little bit, you're like a manifesting queen, and you taught me a lot about manifesting. And so if we don't, I think we should talk about it for a couple of minutes. Just what are some of the steps that you take? What do you feel has really helped make a big change in you and being able to create the world and the life that you want?
Yeah. So it's my favorite thing ever to talk about, to learn about, because really we came here to learn how to manipulate energy and to use it we're all creators. Every single one of us are creating every second, every minute of every day. And it is so interesting because you and I have both studied these laws and have learned about manifesting, and we're continuing to learn as we go through life. But it's so interesting how many people have never, ever even heard that concept. There are a lot of people that don't have any idea that they have the capacity to create based on their thoughts, their visualization, their words, their feelings, their emotions, and their beliefs. Mm-hmm. And so it's so exciting to me. I get so excited when I talk to someone and I ask if they have ever heard of it, and they say no, because I'm like, oh my gosh, this is exciting. You're a baby. Let's go, because it's so life-changing. And when I started to learn about my power to create, and I started to work with it and practice it and play with it, and then see things coming in, I'm like, there is no way I will shut up about this until the day I leave the planet, because this is so important for people to know. I mean, if somebody gets some good weight loss tips or, some good financial tips or something, they may or may not share that with anyone. But for me, it's like this is it's the most important information for any human being to learn, because it really makes a difference between misery or fulfillment, and just joy and love and peace and all of those really high vibration emotions that we came here to experience. And so
Love it.
so some of my tips, if I had, you know, a short amount of time, which I know we do, that I would tell people to start paying attention to is, really, at the end of the day, your word is your wand. And so just getting really, really familiar, and start getting intentional and paying attention and aware with, what are you saying? What is your story? Because you can choose whatever you want. You can choose whatever you want.
Give me chills. Seriously, like when you just said, you can choose whatever you want.
Yep, you can.
So magical.
You know, you don't have control over much outside of you, but inside of you, you have control over it all. And so that's the thing, is when people are, their focus is so much on, you know, I'm focused on how this person treats me, or focused on my kids, or I'm worried about them, or I'm worried about this. And they're putting all their energy in the wrong place. When they go here and they really start to visualize and focus what they want in their own life, and get very intentional of their words. The very first thing I do with any client, which you may or may not remember because it was a while ago, but I have them write down what their dominating thoughts are for a week. And I have them pay attention to them.
Yeah.
And I have them, you know, get a stack of flashcards and write down, what are you thinking when you're vacuuming your house, or when you're driving down the street? Where's your mind going? Are you going to, you know, a place of a fight you got in with your spouse last week, or what are you thinking about on a normal basis? And I have them just take note of that. And then we formulate their IMs, because IMs are they're the holy grail of our story. We say I am all day long, whether we're thinking it or whether we're saying it. We say, you know, I'm this, I'm that, I'm happy, I'm sad, I'm worried, I'm stressed, whatever. And so really,
things, you know, like, oh, I'm so dumb, or, you know, I've been catching myself whenever I am kind of mean, and I'm like, no, I'm not, you know, I am not that. You know, I'm trying to be a much better friend to myself. But yes, it's so powerful. I
am. And I mean, at first people, it's very uncomfortable for them to say, I am beautiful. I am kind and compassionate and loving. I'm amazing. I'm a great mom. That's so foreign to people, you know, but when they start
uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's not uncomfortable for me anymore. It used to be, but it's not anymore. Like now I'm like, you know,
yeah,
I can own that because I've said it for a long time. So
because you believe it now, like it became an actual belief that at first it wasn't, but then
yep,
it did.
Yep. So that's my very first go-to, and then from there, you know, mirror work is really, really powerful and important. Do you remember mirror work?
Yeah, that was a huge change for me.
Yeah, so we look at ourselves every day, and usually 99% of the time, I believe that people are criticizing themselves when they look in the mirror. They're looking at, you know, oh, I've got gray hair, or I've got some wrinkles, or, you know, I need to lose weight, or whatever they're looking at. But if you really realize this is just an outfit that we're wearing for this life. So it's just an outfit. And if you look deeper and you look into the eyes are the window to the soul. And when you really connect with your soul and you start to speak love to that soul looking back at you, it's a game changer. Game changer. And so really just like looking at, you know, yourself and saying, hey, you're doing a good job. I'm really proud of you. I love you. You're beautiful. You're strong. Then everything changes, because our life is a direct reflection of how we feel about ourselves. So if you've got money problems, well, you don't feel worthy enough for money. You've got a block there with who? You, right? me.
Oh.
So if I've got relationship problems, it's not because I'm not worthy. It's because I have a block and a kink in the hose with me. It always comes back to me. So however I feel about myself is what will show up for me. So if you find yourself surrounded by people that take advantage of you, that call you names, that disrespect you, it's a direct reflection of what you're thinking about yourself. So go here always.
Go in your heart.
And your life will change.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Thank you. Guys, free coaching lesson today on Nudist Master.
I get riled up. I start getting like all red. I'm like, let's go.
It's so valuable and it's so needed, so needed. I think that we need to have more conversations around this. So what an important role that you play for many of us. And thanks for sharing that, the manifestation process. And I know that there's a lot of visualization that you also implement and do and talk about. And, but I love how you said that, like the language that you speak is so powerful. And you said it so magically,
Thank you.
Right. So I love that so much. And I'm sad to say that we're out of time. I could talk to you for much longer. I think that there are so many other topics we could go into, but before we go, and I know you just touched on a couple of self-love exercises that we can do, the I am statements and the mirror work, talking to yourself kindly and looking at yourself in the eyes. And that was life-changing for me. I still talk about it and tell people about, how you taught me that. Is there one more thing that you'd like to share about self-love? And is there anything else that you would like to, that you're feeling compelled to share with our audience today?
Yeah, I think that another really powerful tool, what I would say to self-love, is just really focus on your wins. Take your focus on what it is that you're doing right instead of what you're doing wrong. Because I guarantee if you're not feeling like you really love yourself, you're just focused way, way, way more on all of your wrong turns. And you'll create massive, massive shifts when you start to focus on what are you doing that is good, that is right. And just starting to be your own friend, And I would just end with, this experience we have going on planet Earth right now. We're going through this massive awakening, and I am finding it very, very magical right now. It's hard. We have a lot of stuff that we're facing that's really, really hard. But I believe this experience is really about us taking back our power finally, once and for all, in our own life, wherever that may be. So, whether that's in a relationship, a career, what areas of our life do we need to change, and where can we bring our power back to us? And so,
love that. Bring the power back.
That's right, girl. That's right.
Awesome.
So it's a great time on planet Earth. I mean, it's a massive awakening that we're going through together.
I 100% agree with you. So many things that it's teaching us so much, so many lessons of not taking it for granted, so many shifts, what is really important. I think surrendering's been a big lesson. There's so many things. And Jen, so I know that you offer a couple of different options and programs, and I know you have a one-on-one programs, I believe, still available. I know every time I talk to you, I'm not sure if they're totally booked or if you have a couple openings. And then I also know you do some group coaching for, these type of subjects. And so how can people get a hold of you if they would like more information on your coaching programs?
Yeah. So my website is jensuliafu.com.
Suliafu.
Suliafu. Yes. jensuliafu.com. I don't know if you have like something you could put in your chat or whatever. I mean, not your chat, but underneath. But I'm also on Instagram. People could send me a message on Instagram or Facebook Messenger, and just send me like a private message, and I'll reach back out to them. But yeah, I do. I have a group which meets every single Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern or Mountain Standard Time. So, and then I have one-on-one coaching, and sometimes I have availability, and sometimes I don't. So,
So I was right. I know.
It just depends. Yeah. So yeah.
I love it. So Jen Suliafu.com.
Yep.
And then your Instagram handle is just Jen Suliafu.
Yep. Jen Suliafu. And then, and then my Facebook is, Jennifer Suliafu. Yeah. So
ironic last name, which is not hard to say, but in my mind.
No, a lot of people have a hard time with it. You're not alone, honey.
Thanks for understanding. Coming from a person who everyone, has a hard time with my first name. So
yeah.
We feel each other, girl.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time, your wisdom, the value that you brought to all of us today. And everyone, remember the importance of taking care of yourself, facing yourself, and nurturing that self deep love. There's nothing greater than to be proud of who you are and have respect for yourself and love for yourself. So Jen, you're absolutely wonderful. And I hope that everybody has such a great day. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.